just going to have a crack now at mounting our diesel heater. It's just a cheapy eBay one. I think we paid like 200 and something bucks for it. It was the smallest one we could get. We wanted a smaller one, but they just didn't have any on there at the time. So yeah, comes with all the bits and pieces and the kit. It's got all your hoses and intake and ducting and harness, exhaust, all that sort of gear. We were hoping to mount the diesel heater like as far that way as we could, just so we we still have heaps of storage there. But unfortunately, the drawbar sort of comes in here and doesn't quite give us enough room. So it's unavoidable. We're going to have to put it kind of right in the middle, which I was hoping we didn't have to do, so that way we could still have a bit of storage under here. But we will have a little bit behind it, but that's the best we'll do. So I'll take you under the van and sort of show you roughly where this flange will go. So yeah, so where I wanted to mount the diesel heater is like right above that drawbar there. So I'll have to come in and it's going to go, it'll go roughly just in that corner there. So I'll have to drill that 100mm hole, and this base plate will be on top. And then I actually watched, I think it was JS Adventures from memory. He bought this stormwater, I think it is, flange, I think it is, from Bunnings. So that way it acts as a bit of a heat shield and just a bit of a stone deflector as well. So we'll drop that through the floor, then drop all the exhaust and intake and stuff through that. So I think we'll give that a go. See daylight.
That, my friend, is 100 and what mil hole?
102.
102 mil hole.
So there's that whopping big 102mm hole. This is that flange, and it fits like a glove in there. So it'll just act as a bit of a heat shield, a little bit of a stone deflector for where those exhaust and that comes out as well. And it'll just protect any wiring underneath the floor if there's heat or whatnot from the exhaust. So yeah, I think it's a pretty cool idea. So in the harness that comes with this diesel heater, it doesn't really explain it very well in the instructions, but this here is actually the cabling that goes to the fuel pump. Sorry, focus my camera again. This is the one here that goes to the little dosing pump. And what you need to do first is actually, it needs to go through that hole, and so it can go through the floor. So just be careful of that, so you don't actually seal and bolt all this up and then realise that you have to pull that through the floor as well. So we'll make sure we get that done first. So with the intake and exhaust, you can't really bugger it up because the exhaust doesn't fit over the back. It only goes on one way. So I think that's right. Like, I don't think you can really bugger that bit up because it only sort of goes on one way. So you put your hose clamps on, going to tighten them up, and then so I've got that part of the harness for the little where is it, for the fuel pump. It's over there somewhere. So yeah, that's all in there inside that gasket there, or the base plate, sorry. So the only other thing left to do is to mount the fuel hose, the fuel line. So I'll tighten these hose clamps up and then we'll get onto the fuel hose. Righto, so exhaust is nipped up, air intake's tightened up, the fuel pump hose is through there, and the fuel line is all hooked up. So you get 6, or in this kit, so I think I've seen some videos where it just comes in one big long line of fuel hose and you've got to cut it into 6 pieces, but this one already comes cut in this kit. So the way it works is, it's a bit odd, but anyways, so you slip your fuel hose over the barb there for the fuel line, and then tighten him up with the clamp that's provided, and then you got to put this little thin fuel hose inside that rubber one and then tighten that up onto it. So on all your joins, that's what these bits here are for. That's how that works. So once you've done that, I think it's ready to slip through the floor. I still do have to seal that gasket in there, that flange in there, and then seal that through the floor and bolt it up. But I'm just going to dry fit it first and make sure it all fits properly. So this is what it looks like underneath. So everything comes through that flange there nicely. There's a nice clearance around everything. But you can see there the importance of doing all these before you drop it through the hole, because it's just really hard. It'd be really hard to tighten these up otherwise. So if you were to seal it all in and then realise you have to put it on afterwards. So yes, that's what it looks like from here. So then we just got to mount the intake up out of the way somewhere, the exhaust up out of the way somewhere, and then mount our fuel pump somewhere as well. So we might, now that all fits nicely, we'll probably go back inside and seal it down to the floor, and then we can drill the holes to bolt the whole thing through the floor as well. Okay, so we've just put a little bead of sealant around there, so this seals down to the ground. We're just going to feed all this through now, which is a bit tricky. It's unavoidable getting this bloody silicon stuff everywhere. Just do a little bit more tonight inside. We'll drill the hole for the vent. So we're thinking of mounting it here, just so it's not so visible from there, and that'll blow air back out towards the bed end. So yeah, we're going to hole saw that hole now and hook up the duct for that tonight.
How's the drill work?
So all we got done tonight was, mount the display in and hook the duct up. So tomorrow when we've got a bit more light, we'll mount up the exhaust and everything underneath. I'll find a nice tidy way to route all this wiring. So it does come with a 20 amp fuse on it, but I'm going to cut that off and run this wiring in behind here and run it into this fuse block and put the fuse in there, and then same with the negative. So yeah, that's a tomorrow's job. I think we'll pack up for tonight. It's getting it's dark, it's hard to see outside, and it's raining, so I hope you can see that the ground's all wet, and we haven't had dinner yet, so
I'm hungry.
Morning guys, so next day we're going to mount up the diesel heater tank, so I'll just flip you around and show you what we have to do. So this is the 15 litre diesel heater tank it comes with. So you can have this tank mounted either that way or this way, whichever way. So we're going to have it that way. So it's going to go behind our toolbox. Actually, hold on, is that right? Let me check. That way, sorry. So this face here is going to be mounted up against our toolbox. So if you have a look at the bottom, there's like a harder plastic bit there, and here we have to drill through. So we're going to use the bottom one there. We're going to drill through that there, and this is like this has to be fed inside the tank. It'll sit in there, and that's your supply line for your fuel. So we're going to use a bit of this 7.5 amp cable because it fits through the eye of that. So when we drill this hole, we'll run the cabling through, slide the bolt in, and then we'll do the nut up at the bottom there to fix it up. Okay, so we've got that cable running through there, so we should be able to then slide that in, slide it down. Actually, what I might do is tie a knot on the end of this so it doesn't pull through. So then if we pull that just like that. So next it's just this little O-ring and the nut. Slip that over there. Push that O-ring on. Just make sure that plastic's clean. a bit tighter in a moment. So we just mounted that diesel heater tank up, so it sits just behind the toolbox. We've bolted it through there. I have to cut those bolts off a bit shorter. So when we mounted the toolbox, we measured it and allowed for enough room for the toolbox to slip in beside there, and we mounted it low enough so that when you open the lid, it misses the cap. I will probably now have to make up a little bracket just to protect the bottom of that tank, just so rocks and that don't smash it. But yeah, we'll mount the toolbox back up now, and then we'll try and plumb the rest of it up from yesterday. Right, a bit of an update. So we've got the exhaust mounted up there, and then got the intake, and it runs up and tucked up out of the way under the front of the van there. And then I've got the fuel line and the fuel dosing pump cabling running through this split tubing. It runs over the top of the drawbar, and then I've ran it all together in there just to protect it. And then that's the dosing pump there. So the pressure side has to be the higher side, and it's got to be on about a 15-degree angle. That's probably even a little bit less, maybe. I've got to check it. So I could probably have to adjust that up. And then it goes through the fuel filter and then up into the tank. And I still have to mount this up out of the way. I've just run out of cable clips into the tank. So all that's left to do now is go inside the van and hook it up to power. So we just filled up the diesel heater tank, and we hooked it up to the fuse block there, popped the 20 amp fuse in, and it's working. It's actually getting really warm. So we changed it to degrees Celsius, because I'll just show you here. When the diesel heater comes, it's in hertz, so it comes set at hertz, but we want it in temperature. So if you hold, degrees Celsius. So if you hold the settings and the up button at the same time, it changes it to degrees Celsius. So up and down from there sets your temperature. And if you go OK, so E00 means there's no errors. So that's your time, 2:27. That's the temp the van is at now. So it was at 20 and it's heating up to 23. So that's what we want the temp to be. And yeah, that's pretty much it really. That little symbol there is the fuel pump. So when that's on, it's sucking fuel, and I don't know if you can hear that bit of a tap sound. That's the sound of the pump there. Yeah, this is obviously your fan speed, which you can't change. I think as it's heating up, it obviously ramps the speed up, and then when it's at temp, it sort of slows down. But just while that's running full pelt, I'll show you on the battery monitor there. It's only drawing 4 amps, so it's not really, it's pretty efficient. So it's not really drawing too much. It's already getting pretty warm in here. What do you think, El?
I think it's so good.
It'll be a bit quieter once we put the cover back on there and the cushion and everything. But yeah, it's getting really warm. So that is the diesel heater installed, done and dusted. All working really good. It's good that the screen sort of dims when you're not using it. That's just turned on there. Yeah, all works really good. So we're super happy with how that's turned out. It heats up really nicely. It gets so hot. It actually is like really hot when you right in front of it when it's running. But yeah, it works really good. So we're happy with how it's all turned out. What do you think, El?
I think it's going to be a game changer whenever it's cold, because as you know, I hate the cold. So.
Well, if you don't know, you do now.
Exactly.
Elle hates the cold.
Hate it with a passion. I cannot wait to go somewhere where it's warmer. But when we're not somewhere where it's warm, then that will make us warm.
So another little thing we've added to the diesel heater was this K-Flex insulation that you buy from Bunnings just to protect your piping. So because the intake material is really brittle, it's quite soft, you can tear it quite easily. It was getting peppered by rocks and things a bit on the gravel roads, and we noticed a few little dints in there, and we didn't want it to put a hole through it. So yeah, bought this stuff. I just spliced it down the middle and wrapped it around the intake, and then just cable tied it up. So that should give it that extra layer of protection from the rocks. And I've also done it to the fuel filter and the little dosing pump, and that's also made it a little bit quieter inside too, which is good. So yeah, that's another little thing we've added. Rightio, so we're just going to show you how to set the timer on your diesel heater. This took us ages to try and work out because it doesn't really tell you in the instructions, and yeah, it just took a lot of YouTubing, but we've figured it out. So if you hit this settings button, at the moment it's 1:15 in the afternoon. So if you hit the settings button, it'll flash there to adjust the time. But if you click it again, it shows you your first timer. So at the moment it's off. So if you hit the arrows to turn it on and hit the OK button, it's actually a countdown timer. So say you want it to come on at 6 o'clock in the morning, you don't actually program 6 o'clock, because this is a countdown timer for the current time. So if it's 1:15, if we wanted it to come on at 3:15, we'd have to set this for 2 hours, if that makes sense. So we'll just show you how to do that. So you can go change this to 2 hours. So 2 hours, hit OK. And now the second timer, if you want it to stay, like once it comes on it in 2 hours time, if you want it to stay on for another 2 hours, you can also set that. So OK, and then say you want it to stay on for 2 hours, you would change this to 2 hours also, like that. And then hit the settings, and you can see there that that little timer symbol's on. So if you only want it to come on, say it's 8 o'clock at night and you want it to come on at 8 o'clock in the morning, you would set the timer for 12 hours time. That way the heater would come on. And then if you didn't want to turn it off, you would just turn that second timer off, and then you could manually turn the heater off as you wish. So hope that makes sense. Once you get yours, have a bit of a play with it, and yeah, you'll work it out. Clearly you can see how much the dogs love the diesel heater. Literally laying right in front of it. What do you reckon, Darla? Pretty cozy. So another little tip I wanted to share with the diesel heater, we found when we first started using it before we left for our trip, it was about 4 degrees, getting down to about 4 degrees overnight. And with the diesel heater, obviously inside the van, it was like 22 degrees. We found that under their bed, it was sweating, like it was getting condensation. So I ended up finding a great solution for this, and it cost me like $4 from Bunnings. And all it is I bought one of these seagrass mats to sit under their bed, and that just allows enough airflow to get in and underneath it, and that solved that issue with it sweating. So easy fix. Also, don't forget just to crack a couple of windows open or unzip, tiny corner of the window, just to allow for a little bit of ventilation as well, because otherwise you'll just get condensation in here. Thanks heaps for tuning into this episode, guys. We hope it's been informative and helped you in some way installing your own diesel heater, or even just helped you make up your mind whether a cheap sort of Chinese diesel heater like ours is the way to go as opposed to a more expensive one. Obviously there's probably going to be cons with a cheaper one. We can't really comment on the longevity of it. We have had it about 6 months now, and in saying that though, it's worked flawlessly. It hasn't let us down. It's very efficient, it's very quiet, and it heats the van up really well. So for $239, I can't complain at all. So don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon for future videos. Catch you in the next one. Cheers.